Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner Football Fans podcast. Today we have the guys from BennieandBuds.com, John Jennings and Rob Jennings. They predicted last year that Lincoln Riley was the next OU football coach, but so soon? Also, could Kliff Kingsbury be the next offensive coordinator at Oklahoma? And we ask how long until football no longer has a kickoff. Sooner football fans is not associated with the University of Oklahoma, but we do have eligibility left. Boomer. Hey, Sooner football fans, you got Terry and Rob here. Boomer Rob.
Boomer Terry.
And on the podcast today, we have the guys from BennieandBuds.com, John Jennings and Rob Jennings. Boomer, guys.
Boomer, guys.
All right, so what's been going on in Bennie and Buds world the last few weeks?
Well, it is the off season. We're pretty much exactly between the end of last season and the beginning of next season, so a little bit of a lull. So we get to kind of write about just the fun things you don't get to usually think about. So just as an example, we were talking about exactly 1 year ago this week, Lincoln Riley signed his 3-year extension as an assistant, which Bennie and Buds prophetically said he is now the coach in waiting. But we'll get to that in a minute. While I'm at the beginning, I just want to make a pitch for our Facebook page, which a lot of people already liked and checked out. You go to facebook.com/Bennie and Buds and click like. You'll get the same content you see on Twitter, but with some other stuff. We've got videos, lots of good stuff. So, Rob, what have you been writing about?
I haven't written anything since kind of the spring game previews where we just talked about the new guys on campus and how we expect things to shake out for the beginning of next year, really. Pretty quickly, I'm going to have a little piece about what I think happened with the college football playoff next year and who's going to get in and why OU is being undervalued in most of the projections so far.
I agree with you on why, the OU's being undervalued. They're being undervalued right now all the way across the board with everything that I've been reading. I think they're sitting back here going, the losing Baker aspect is part of the reason, or maybe all of the reason, but it seems to me like the Sooners aren't getting much love right now in all the preseason or way too early preseason polls.
That's okay. We like it that way, right?
But let's get right into what you brought up the first time, you guys, right at the beginning here. 1 year ago, Lincoln signed his 3-year extension as an assistant, and you guys prophesied that it was going to be he was the head coach in waiting. What made you think that? What made you take that into effect?
Was that very humble of us? I don't know, a little braggy on that.
Hey, no, you were right. So, but
I think it's kind of funny if you look over the years when people say, "Well, if Stoops ever leaves, if he quits, he's going to quit young. Who's the guy going to be?" And for a long time,
Caleb was asking me, are you going to get something? Why don't you bring something for him to sign? And I'm not a big. I have autographs, but I'm not an autograph hound. But I told Caleb just like, I was like, he hasn't done anything yet. He's the head coach. I'm one that, hey, I want it when something has been proven. And he really, to his, out of respect for him and everything else, he did take the team to the semifinals. And it was a great season. But like I said, it could have turned out, a 4-loss season, we wouldn't have been sniffing the Rose Bowl, and I think it's way too early to throw out a contract for him. Now, hey, if we turn out and do the same thing this year, and we're still pushing, we need to look at something for him. But I think it's way too early to start talking about throwing money at him.
Absolutely. Gene Chizik at Auburn had one great year with a transcendent player in Cam Newton and won a national title. I would not be happy if OU went out and hired him. I don't think he's a great coach. So let's just let Lincoln go a couple of years before we get too crazy into this.
Yeah.
After this recruiting class and everything that's going on, I'm thinking about half of Sooner Nation is going to disagree with that.
Yeah.
But it's, like I say, it's realistic. I think every Sooner fan, in the country last year during those 4 games, especially the Baylor and K-State game, were, screaming and hollering and about to pass out, and we're that close, literally that close to losing, 3 games and, ending up in the, I don't know, the Insight.com Bowl again or the Las Vegas Bowl, and even Oklahoma State, I didn't even throw that one in. We could have lost that one very easily. So, but I think that kind of rolls into what we were wanting to talk about too, is, the offensive and defensive coordinators for this next year. What are your thoughts? The prediction of offensive and defensive coordinators. Is Lincoln going to keep calling plays? You think?
I think he's going to keep calling plays for the foreseeable future. I think it's going to take a real bad season where something just doesn't click or relinquish that. And I typically don't like head coaches calling plays. I just think there's a lot of game management things they should be focusing on. I mean, you saw it with Gundy at LSU, where it worked well for a little bit and then kind of fell by the wayside. But I think Lincoln is a truly gifted caller. And I think as long as everything else is going to plan, and so far it has been, I don't see a reason to have a true offensive coordinator in there and just keep Beanbo and Cale Gundy as the co-offensive coordinators right now, who I guess kind of help with game plan but aren't really calling plays.
So another prediction we made, or at least I made last year, was that there was no way that Lincoln could keep up calling the plays and running the team, and he was going to be overwhelmed. So I was wrong on that. I kind of think that, I guess to that point, I think he'll probably do for a few years and find the perfect guy. Maybe it's someone internal. Maybe he knows someone, from his previous days at Tech or East Carolina or whatever. Because who can call plays better than him, to Rob's point? How do you go replace yourself if you're the best at what you do? So, and I guess with that, on the pay issue, here's what will prove it to me for Lincoln, okay? Because if you ask me what record would OU have had with Bob and what results, I think the 2017 season would have been about the same, right? Probably would have been 10-2 or whatever, and lost the bowl game. I guess we were 11-1 and lost the bowl game. Mm-hmm. So sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Well, I mean, with that, I think Lincoln has pretty obviously been able to do both. I mean, just looking at the record alone, it's pretty solid. But as I think back on it, there's only one kind of game management decision that I think was fairly questionable, and that's not going for it in overtime the Rose Bowl. I mean, in that instance, your defense got to stop. You forced Georgia to a field goal, and the way they've been playing that night, I would not have bet a whole lot of money they were going to get another stop if that game went 8 overtimes. So that's the only one that I can kind of think of. And if he can go a whole season and make, one, that's not even that huge a mistake, then I'm, perfectly satisfied with him calling plays.
Let me add to that. I know what I was going to say. So here's what will prove to me for Lincoln, okay? He's proven he can pull in elite top athletes on offense and defense being the key. If he can keep the offense where it's at and make our defense a top 25 defense or better, that will prove it to me. That's when I will say Lincoln's made it. He didn't just maintain raw success, made the team better. And that's when I think, will earn his money.
Well, I'll throw out a Caleb theory here, and I wish he was here, but he's out, bebopping around somewhere. But he brought this up, sitting around all of us talking one time. Kliff Kingsbury. Just throw that out there. Caleb's thought is he's not going to last much longer at Texas Tech. He's 30-33 right now. They seem to like him no matter what he does, but if he loses his job at Tech, let's say they had the same type of season, he still has a losing record. He's been there, I think 3 years now, maybe 4. If he doesn't turn it around and start doing something, they release him. Lincoln picks him up. What do y'all think?
John, didn't you actually write an article making the same prediction around last July or so?
This whole episode is about the things Bennie and Buds as prophecies. This is all about it. Yeah.
Just a quick question: was there a national title in some of those prophecies?
Yeah. and give us
Oh
that
my
time
gosh,
frame
I won't
too.
even go there. I won't even go there. Well, I mean, on the Kingsbury thing, he totally fits the mold. That's what I kind of agree with Caleb. And for those listening, he used to be a character on the show before Buds. So one of the original characters. But he would fit. I mean, the mold as far as developing quarterbacks, play calling. It seems like he can't connect with players the way that Lincoln has. I mean, there's been lots of issues. Well, I mean, Baker Mayfield, classic example, didn't like him.
Right.
And that's happened so many times. So I think it's possible. I think that Lincoln would probably make him a better coach before he went and did something else. But at the same time, he's probably the best the Tech can do. Honestly, I think that Mike. Help me out. Former offensive coordinator at Washington State.
Mike Leach.
Thank you, Mike Leach. I think Mike Leach is about the best that Tech had ever done. He was an aberration. So I'm not sure they're going to go fire him and find someone better.
No, and I don't know that that's really the type of offense that Tech. I mean, they loved it when Mike was there, and then boy that came in from Auburn, I just went blank too. Tuberville was a completely different style, and then they brought Kingsbury back. I just don't think he's produced. I mean, he has no defense whatsoever. And really his offense, last year didn't produce very much. So I think he's on the hot seat, and I agree. I think it's a very good possibility that if nothing else, a play caller or maybe like what they did with Diaco, make him, what is Diaco's title? I can't remember what it is. It's a defensive analyst.
Yeah, analyst. Yeah.
Which, to me sounds like defensive coordinator in waiting. That's just me. I'll throw that out there. But I mean, if anything else, Kingsbury would understand that scheme that we're running and can fit in the staff somewhere. Because I just don't think he's going to last at Tech very much longer. What do you think, Rob?
Well, I think that there's a lot of SEC teams that have a whole bunch of analysts. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they really do. So I think that we're just getting on board with that and trying to, you take a little bit of that off of Mike Stoops' shoulders, and I think everything works smoother. Hopefully that's the case anyway.
So what do y'all think about my theory of Diaco as the analyst? Sounds like coordinator in waiting.
I wish that were the case. I mean, I think he'd be a great hire. We saw what he did in Notre Dame, turned that defense into a monster for a little while there. Unfortunately, I think kind of the problem with him coming in as an analyst is that he's good at that job and he can game plan and he can kind of talk Mike into maybe the corners playing some bump and run coverage and pressing a little bit more so they don't just get 10-yard passes every time they throw the ball.
Yeah.
Then Mike's going to look a whole lot better, and I don't think Mike gets fired if Diaco really does his job. Conversely, if Diaco doesn't really do his job and he can't get things going, then I'm not sure Lincoln's going to look at him the same way and say, like, look, you've been here for a year. We weren't able to produce games. We weren't the coordinator, but you did have a voice in that room, and we tried some things, but they didn't really work. So that's kind of, I don't know, I think there's a greater than 50% chance that Mike Stoops is going to be the defensive coordinator for this year and next, and who knows how long, especially as, all these defensive recruits start getting in there and we have a little bit more talent on that side of the ball.
I would agree with you, but I like what you said, that he is just another voice in that room. Just, hey, Mike, have we considered this, playing up on somebody?
Yeah.
Don't give a 10-yard cushion. I don't know.
Don't drop Oboe back in coverage.
Yeah.
Don't do that. That's the big question though, is what does Mike Stoops have to do? What does our defense have to do this year to stop the fire Mike Stoop chants, or they're not really chants. They don't go on at the stadium, but you see them on Twitter and on Facebook.
They're happening in the student section. I can tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, what does he have to do to? Where does our defense? Does it have to be a top?
Is it 25? Even salvageable for him?
Yeah. Is it salvageable? Because I don't think we're going to go from 65th or 67th defense to top 25 in a year. I don't, as much as everybody likes Bookie, he's not going to improve our defense.
Listen, I thought we were fans.
So well, next year, let me say this: in 2012, I think we were. I think it was 2012. We were like 28th. We've been there, even in recent history, been very close.
Well, 2015, we were top 25. That the year we lost to Kliff in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
There you go. Maybe that's the year I'm thinking of.
Yeah, even sooner. But yeah. Go on.
So, I think the other part is just the points scored. I mean, we can all talk about where they're playing off the ball and all that stuff, but what was this year's Bedlam, like 58-48 or something ridiculous?
Yeah, it was.
I think it was 60s.
Yeah.
Even winning is great. We can outscore teams, but wouldn't it be better if that game was like, 65-30 or something? Just show any signs of life you can stop a team.
65-14.
65 nothing.
Texas flashback.
Yeah, it ended up 62-52. And, we were running out the clock basically when Sermon broke that long run, or it'd have been closer. It was closer than that. I mean, we had the ball. We'd just gotten a first down, and he busted a run. But, Rob and I have talked about it before, is that, even in Leach's days at Tech, Leach always, he was going to outscore you. And if you gave Texas Tech the ball at the end, he wanted the ball last. It was basically like playing baseball. You get home team gets to bat last, and if I get the ball last, I'm gonna beat you. And I don't think any Sooner fan wants that type of team. Like
not that type of defense. That's
yeah. I mean, like I said, it would be much better if these games, like you said, Rob, was 62 to 20 or 62 to 30, something more like the TCU game, 41-17, in the Big 12, something like that. But I, as a fan, and like Rob just said, we are fans. I don't think my heart can take games like Baylor and the Texas Tech game 2 years ago.
Rose Bowl.
The Rose Bowl, where you put up that many points on a team and either barely scrape by or end up losing it in overtime. It's just not acceptable to me as a fan.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we saw like flashes of it this year with, the Ohio State game was fantastic defensive performance. And even later in the year, in those like TCU games, the Devonta Lampkin sack is one of my favorite defensive plays I think I've seen in, 10 years or so. Just that bull rush.
Yeah.
And I think that might kind of be the key to turning it around for OU, is getting those defensive linemen who are in there. I mean, right now in the 2018 class, we just signed a guy out of Missouri. I think his name's Michael Thompson, who's a 4-star defensive tackle, who I haven't seen a ton of his tape, but watching him in just the Army Bowl, which is, the all-star game for all these recruits, I wasn't watching for him because OU wasn't even that involved in his recruitment at the time, but he was dominant. Like, you just saw him flash on tape against these 4- and 5-star linemen. If you get one guy like that on the line to speed up a quarterback, that lets your secondary make plays, that blocks up the run game so they're not moving the ball. And I think, one guy like that on the defensive line can move you from, the 60th ranked to 45th maybe, or something like that. And then it's just the other guys kind of showing up more than they did.
Yeah, and I think we got several of them coming in now. What was that one other kid? He was only a 3-star, but he was violent.
Yeah.
I forgot his name.
I can't think of his name either.
But he talked about flashes of a great defense last year in the Ohio State game, and that was impressive. We play defense like that the rest of the year. We don't lose a game. We win straight through. But then we also had flashes on the extreme other end where we couldn't stop a linebacker playing quarterback for Iowa State.
Yeah, 2 weeks or 3 weeks after we knocked off, I guess, Ohio State. Weren't they number 2 at the time? Yeah, they were number 2.
Something like that.
Yeah, and just dominated them. And then it looked like our offense was a sieve after that. We just got picked apart.
Well, they're bipolar. If they could just choose, one or the other, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, and because I'm in the class of, or the group of people that I don't think there's going to be that much of a drop off, and I know it sounds like offensive wise, because. Not that Baker wasn't a great quarterback and everything else. I think that Lincoln Riley, his offensive mind, and how he schemes things is, it's going to pick up where we left off. And I'll go back to, I was watching some of the highlights from the Ohio State game from last year when Baker went down. If people forget, he went down in like the first half and limped off the field. And the first play that Lincoln goes out there and runs with Kyler Murray is a zone read. I guess you'd call it a double option, because he reads the end, hands it to the running back. They go to the corner commits to the running back. Kyler's running behind him, and he pitches it back to Kyler. And even Herbstreit was like, Lincoln didn't miss a beat. He changed hey, different quarterback in there. He immediately changed the scheme on, you're now going to have to deal with this if this guy stays in there, and, you can say thankfully didn't, because Baker came back in, we win. But that's what I think, where Lincoln has an edge on just about everybody that we play. I mean, Gary Patterson said, after the Big 12 championship game, good luck to anybody. He faced them twice. Good luck to anybody trying to stop this offense.
I loved it.
I mean, it just stumped him, and most people consider him one of the best defensive minds or head coaching minds in the country. And he had no idea, and he basically even said it, you know what I mean? So I'm not worried about offense. I'm worried about the defense.
Well, it's got to be better, don't it? I mean, I know we lost Obo, but it's got to be better.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about the recruiting a little bit here, and I agree with you. I mean, I think the offense will be a little bit worse this year because it's hard to replace a guy like Baker Mayfield. But with that being said, you're bringing in another 5-star in Kyler Murray, who just has a whole new dimension of this offense that you're letting Lincoln Riley play with. There's not going to be a huge drop-off there. But on the defensive side, they lose a few guys. Obo's a big one. I think the other biggest losses are Stephen Parker and Will Johnson. Not necessarily just because of, they were great players and things like that, but there's just no depth of safety for this team, really. It's going to be Robert Barnes probably, and Khalil Houghton maybe, Chance Sylvie, I don't know, somewhere in there. And, they aren't names that are going to slow down Big 12 offenses too much. But if you can land a few more of these guys, then things look up. And replacing Obo, I think, will actually kind of be the easiest portion of that, just because I think that kind of jack linebacker spot is what they call it, is really deep. Aside from Mark Jackson and Absent Gums, who are already on campus, you're bringing in Ronnie Perkins and Jalen Redmond. And, Redmond is just incredible. That guy is huge, and he's a freshman. Yeah. There's no telling what he's going to do in 2 years.
Yeah. Well, we can all hope and pray. Do y'all want to make a defensive prediction then, since you guys have been hitting on your predictions? Or do you just, or we'll let you, since you write about it, we'll let you guys make a prediction this week on where our defense will be next year. How about that?
Unless you just want to go on record here.
Okay. Well, this is a fun game. We should do this. All right, Rob. Think about this for a second. We're gonna pick a number 1 through 125, or how many teams there are. They were, what were they last year? 68th, is that right? Something like that.
Yeah, 67th or 68th, somewhere in there.
Okay. Okay, I've got my number. Rob, do you have yours?
Yep, I got it.
All right. I think OU, this is bold, I know, call me crazy. I think they'll finish 35th in scoring defense next year.
That's a little high for me. I think losing the safeties is going to be a big deal. That's going to give all these Big 12 offenses that want to throw over the top a little bit more room to do that. But I agree that you could be better. I think they'll for 45th.
45th and 35th. So we're going to say that you guys called it at 40. How about that?
Yeah. 40 would be such an improvement. I'll take it.
Yeah.
We're going to call ourselves right if we land anywhere in that 35, 45 range.
And, I mean, let's, face the facts. If we had the number 35 ranked defense in 2017, we win the national title. We beat Georgia.
No question. Yeah.
No question. Yeah. And then we give Alabama a thumping.
Yeah.
But they're still rubbing on.
This is painful.
Yeah. But, well, let's jump into something topical that you guys just put out, the new kickoff rules. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the last few days since, we've been talking to you guys and stuff, and it all came out, I've been trying to find statistical information on the number of injuries in college football that result during the kickoff. And I can't find any. I know the reason for the rule changes, but why have they made them so drastic at this point in time, do you guys think?
I think it's probably to try to avoid the lawsuits that are eventually going to come. I don't think that concussions are probably going up. In fact, technology gets better every year. However, the difference between football now and football 30 years ago is that we didn't know then what we know now. So it's different to let these really kind of vicious hits happen. If you don't know any better and you say, well, it's a violent game, obviously they know the risks they're taking, versus now where we know some of these guys can't walk in 20 years. They're so beat up. So does this fix that problem entirely? No, of course not. But I think it shows at least an effort to try to do something to make it better. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat there. I think it kind of has to do with the idea of people see someone get paralyzed on the field, that Rutgers, I think his name's Eric LeGrand maybe, get paralyzed on a kickoff return in, 2012 or whenever that was. And that's just a really scary thing to watch and hear about all the time. Greg Schiano is still talking about that constantly. I'm not saying he shouldn't, but realistically, I think the concussion issue is more just part of football until we can develop some sort of helmet that kind of develops it. I mean, Roy Williams earlier this week was talking at his Cotton Bowl Hall of Fame induction about someone asked him a question do you remember something about some play he made? I don't remember specifically which one. He said, well, I wish I could tell you which year that was, but I can't because all the concussion stuff. And I think that's just kind of a risk you take playing football right now. Good, bad, different. That's the choice kind of people make. And I'm not sure, reducing the number of kickoffs by 20% or whatever is going to solve that problem. And I don't think it will.
Well, but you look at, jump into the pros, and my team, the Steelers, lost Shazier this year. Okay. It wasn't a kickoff. It was just a normal defensive play that in a normal situation that he made 1,000 times before. And, he's been recovering well, and he keeps saying he's going to play football again, which most people, I don't think he probably will. But, like I said, it's a violent game, and a lot of people didn't like the movie Concussion. I did. Primarily, and you can say, I'm a Steelers fan because it was all around Pittsburgh, but, CTE took, Mike Webster, and that was my childhood hero. I mean, that's the guy I watched, playing football as a Steelers fan growing up. And one of my favorite scenes in that movie is when the doctor finally gets to talk to the NFL, the Players Association. I can't remember the doctor's name, but Will Smith's character, he stands up there and he said, I'm not trying to do away with your game. I don't understand it. My wife loves it and I can appreciate it. He goes, just like a soldier who goes into war, they know the possibility of getting shot, getting, injured. He goes, you need to have this information. And they have the information, whether it's on a kickoff, a punt return, defense, offense, you're in a violent game. You're in a compact area with, Rob put it, 200 and 300 pound men who want to rip your head off when they hit you. And that's just how it is. And I don't know that changing the kickoff rule, and that's what I'm saying is I can't find any stats that show that there were more people catastrophically injured during kickoff or punt return than there have been on any other play.
There's more to it than just that. They're trying to speed up the game,
right?
So I think they're just trying to throw some stuff in there to make sure it happens. I don't know.
I kind of think this has been going on longer than we've probably also noticed. I think one of the reasons is like the spread caught on in the early 2000s, and I don't think it was just that, Hal Mummy and Mike Leach come up with this new idea that worked. They were taking advantage of the rules in play. I think the reason that these guys get so wide open is because we cover them differently now, defenders do, than they did a generation ago. So even a few years ago, probably like 10 years ago, they changed all the clock rules to where the clock started before the kickoff. And
right.
And the funny thing about it is they undid those, and a lot of people didn't even notice. So
Yeah.
I think there's been these kind of subtle changes. I guess my point is, I don't think a year or two from now, if this stays like it is, I don't think people are going to notice. I think it's going to be a kind of a small change in the game, and we'll just get used to it. It'll be the new normal.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily have an issue with the fair catch. They if they fair catch it, it automatically moves to the it's a touchback.
It's a touchback.
Yeah, it's really the change that they made. I don't really have an issue with that, but I mean, some of the stuff I was reading, looking into this these last few days, is there are people out there saying okay, now we need to we're moving forward, we just need to stop kickoffs, and I'm not for that. I think it's a part of the game, and if you want to make it safer, and one of the big issues that when somebody brought up was you take out the onside kick if you take off kickoffs. I mean, that's in close games, it can decide a game, and I don't want it to change that much. And like you said, the subtle changes that we see we never notice them. It becomes the norm. But on the other end of that, like I said, it's a violent game. It's and I hate to say it violent, but that's the only term you can use for it, I guess. It's it's the biggest, fastest, strongest people in the world or in the country running around knocking each other down.
And some of them have attitude problems. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
But where does it stop? Do y'all see it? Do you see it? What's the next step? Are they going to do away with it, you think, or what do y'all think?
Well, I agree with you. I like kickoffs and I like onside. I think onside kicks are, they add so much to the game, even if you don't notice it. I mean, if you take away the onside kick, suddenly when your team's driving with 5 minutes left in the fourth and they're down 14, that's almost an insurmountable lead if you have to just kick off instead of taking it onside.
Right.
So every game that far apart just becomes over, and we lose a lot of close football that way. But I think I don't know if you predicted it, but kind of the inference for that is I think there's a really good chance that we don't have kickoffs at all in football in 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. I don't like that, but I just think they're getting blamed right now, whether the science is there or not, I haven't done the research to know, for these concussion problems. And as long as college football and the NFL, for that matter, can do something to make it look like they care, then I think they're willing to do that.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe they'll stop kickoff after I'm gone.
I think it's going to be in our lifetime.
Maybe they'll wear red and white flags on the sides of their pants. They can just
and I understand. I mean, some of the stuff I read. That Pop Warner football has done away with it. The kickoffs. I don't have me personally. I think even though my kids played as soon as they could. My oldest son started playing football when he's 8, tackle football. Initially I thought, man, that's cool. They're gonna, and then I thought, what, that's probably a little bit too young to be out there banging heads. You're not going to learn anything at the age of 8 that you're not going to be able to read later. So, or I get it with the Little League and things like that, but and that it should be, I think they're starting tackle football too young in a lot of these places. I don't know if y'all have ever watched that Friday Night Tykes on, I think it's A&E, where it's all those Little League football teams. Oof, some of those guys don't have any business hanging or being around a kid. But I mean, the progression seems to be, as we had one of our fans on there, then I think he said, he didn't want it to be completely sissified, and I'm not saying that that's where it's going, but it just seems like, like you said, it with the technology we have, and now, where does it just stop? And like I said, it's probably going to do away with it. And I saw a deal too where Goodell said that if it's a close game, and they did away, he has a onside kick rule that if they do away with kickoffs, and you score, you can opt for the onside, and you get 1st and 15. I mean, you get it's one play or fourth down from, I think he said, the 30-yard line. You get one play. It's 4th and 15. You get one play to make a first down, and if you don't, it's that's your onside kick chance. If you make a first down, you get one play to make 15 yards, and if you get it, you get to keep the ball. If not, you turn the ball over. So, and
that's fine, I guess, for protecting the ability to get the ball back, and it accomplishes that purpose of keeping things closer than they maybe really are, like we were talking about a minute ago. But even apart from that, 2 years ago in the national championship game, the first Alabama-Clemson national championship game, that game swung on an onside kick in the third quarter.
Yep.
It was a surprise. It was the special teams that made that play happen, and one of the more iconic plays I think I've seen that totally changed the tide on a national championship game and who would be, national champions from then on. And if you get away with that, get rid of the kickoff rules, then, that play never happens. Who knows? Maybe Clemson wins that game and everything's different. It's just, Saban's not going to come out of a touchdown and go for, 4th and 30 in the middle of the third quarter, whereas he's willing to try that onside.
Right. So, it'll take a complete element, out of the game. One that, like I said, it's the only time it's really pivotal is in a close game, making that decision. But like you said, I mean, we saw it in a Super Bowl when the Saints came out after halftime, kicked an onside kick, gave them even more momentum. It takes that element of surprise out of the game, I guess, is outside of it. But, I think that's where we're moving to. I agree with you guys.
I don't think that it's to blame for all of the injuries. I think that certainly some severe ones can happen in that particular setting. But I think they're gonna heap blame there. They're gonna speed up the game there. And I think in our lifetime we will not see kickoffs.
Yeah.
Which is bad for the kickers.
Go ahead.
No, Rob said it's bad for the kickers.
Oh, yeah. Well, kind of more on the strategic side of this whole thing. As an Oklahoma fan, you've got to be pretty disappointed this change is happening right now, right after we hire Shane Beamer, this Frank Beamer's son, and bringing Beamer ball to Norman. Are we going to get to see the full effects if, suddenly it's just really advantageous to fair catch the ball behind this kick?
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a huge. We thought we were bringing to Norman, and, maybe it doesn't matter as much anymore.
Here's an idea. I just had a brilliant idea. Somebody needs to write this down, send it to Goodell and the NCAA. Let's move it back another 5 yards, and if you kick if it goes through the uprights, you get 3 points, and they get the ball on the 10, the receiving team. Now you're encouraging teams to try to kick a field goal. What do you think? It's better than doing away with it.
I think Justin Tucker suggested a similar thing a while back that, if kicker can get it through the uprights on the field goal, on the kickoff, that should count for something. But I like anything that incentivizes people to actually try to do something aggressive.
Yeah, because, then you're going, it's going to go out. If he misses, it's going to go out of the end zone. It's a touchback. and they put the ball on the 25. But if you make it, you get 2 points, or call it a touchback, or call it a safety, kickoff safety, or whatever, and put it on the 20. Or do like the arena did, put bounce back nets on, which I love that in arena football when it used to be here in Oklahoma. You just catch the ball off the net and turn around and take off running.
I'd rather they just not mess with it. If you want to speed the game up, but don't cut that out.
Yeah. Take all the commercial breaks out of the game. That would help speed it up more than everything else.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
But let's go ahead and transition into. We talked a little bit about the pros. What Baker Mayfield landing in Cleveland. What's your guys' opinion on Baker to the Browns? Have y'all bought a Browns jersey? That's it for part 1 of our podcast with John and Rob from BennieandBuds.com. Make sure and download tomorrow's podcast to hear how Baker Mayfield is the perfect fit for the Browns, and we also get into everyone's favorite topic, conference realignment. Remember, if you want to be on the podcast, go to www.soonerfootballfans.com, click on the How to Be on the Podcast tab, fill out the form, click Submit, and we'll get you on the podcast. Boomer.